So I just saw the first episode of Unikitty and it was Now don't get me wrong, I'm not surprised or disappointed. I didn't have high expectations before watching this cartoon. While I do love the Lego movie and Unikitty's character was pretty likable, I didn't find her interesting enough to the point where I would think she deserves her own show. She was written as a side character with a basic, joyful and optimistic personality, and the most complex aspect of her character was the fact that she represses her negative emotions, which even then she ended up releasing them by the end of the movie. A part of me was curious in knowing what exactly the show would do to make her worthier of being the main character. And I noticed they made her more hyperactively quirky, which is a small trend I've been noticing lately and I'm kinda getting sick of it. Not to say that she's unlikable because of it, in fact I found her character to be quite tolerable and watchable, but it does bother me that Warner decided to greenlight a show for her, only to give her this non-special personality that you can easily find in other well-written characters in other cartoons. Now usually I don't make this type of complaint, but I had a few issues with the voice acting. For starters, even though it was nice that they casted Tara Strong to play the key role, which, while we're on the subject of that, I noticed Tara Strong plays the main character who happens to be a unicorn. Same with how she plays the main character in Friendship is Magic who happens to be a pony. And yes, I know ponies and unicorns are two different things, and both characters have different personalities, but I still found that detail to be quite interesting. Anyway, I also noticed they casted Kate Micucci to play Dr. Fox, and don't get me wrong, I like her as a voice actor and I think she did a good job playing her role. But she's being casted in too many recognizable roles, which probably wouldn't bother me that much if they didn't share the same archetype and vocal tone. But in her defense, there are plenty of voice actors who are way more casted in too many roles. One of them is even present in this show. However, I had a bigger issue with the voice acting of the main antagonist. I found his performance to be too corny, and it really doesn't help the fact that a lot of the humor that comes from him was the idea of him being a supernatural figure with a few instances of casual dialogue, which, by the way, totally original. I'm totally not getting sick of this trope. But those jokes won't really work for me if his dialogue feels too zany, to the point where it ruins the contrast between the fantasy vibe and the casual vibe, because I can't take his dialogue seriously. Speaking of sound and not taking things seriously, I noticed this episode used a lot of overused stock sounds. Some of them I even recall listening to in several episodes of Cramp Twins. In terms of visual, I thought the animation was fine, even though I think they showed us a little too much of Unikitty and her brother running. I like how vivid the colors are, although I did notice that the backgrounds were a bit blurry compared to the character layers to sort of enhance the perspective, which I was fine with that decision. I've seen a lot of cartoons do this, but I did notice more emphasis on that with this cartoon for some reason. The characters themselves were alright, they seem to be a decent cast, and I think Dr. Fox and the bodyguard are both fitting for the role of the straight man in order to contrast Unikitty's craziness, which I'm assuming we'll see a lot in this show. The story, however, was a little too predictable for my taste, and I really didn't like how they handled the resolution. My main issue with how the story concluded is similar to the 2016 Pop-Up Girls and a little bit of Family Guy, in which the resolution feels so rushed and forced. In 1 second, Unikitty is the most competitive character in existence, and 1 second later, she does a complete 180 and realizes that she's being too competitive. The character development just feels so unnatural. It doesn't feel like a natural progression of a way of thinking, it just feels like an obligatory lesson that a character has to learn simply for the sake of a resolution. The only part about the story that I actually liked was the haunted board game and the messed up things it does to its players. Unfortunately, the side of the story was kind of overshadowed by the main plot with Unikitty and her brother, which is kind of disappointing because if it had given more attention, this could have been a pleasantly unsettling episode. So yeah, this was a meh episode. I'd like to think this show could get better, even though it probably won't. So despite this not being really my cup of tea, I'm sure someone might get some enjoyment out of watching this. There were several moments that, while they didn't necessarily make me laugh, I can picture other people having the opposite reaction. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you should check this episode out. It's only 11 minutes long and I think it's worthy of at least checking it out of curiosity. However, I'd personally much rather watch the Lego movie instead. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.